All right, and welcome into the Fantasy Pros Fantasy Football Podcast. It's one of the best times of the year as all 32 NFL training camps are open for business, giving their fans hope that just maybe, this is the year that they capture the Lombardi Trophy. We're going to help you go after some fantasy football trophies in this episode as we break down the biggest depth chart dilemmas. This is a two-part episode. In part one, we'll break down the messiest running back rooms. And then in part two, you guessed it, it's messy wide receiver rooms. I'm your host, Seth Woolcock, and today I'm joined by two of the best in the business, including a man who I'm sure has to probably be a scratch golfer by now. He's been tearing up both the links and the podcast streets this summer. He's Pat Fitzmaurice. Fitzy, great to be with you. How are you as veterans report to camp this week?
Doing well, Seth. I've got like 3 drafts I'm juggling right now,
Ooh.
so that feels good. As far as the golf thing, doing better with the golf betting than the actual golfing. I'm not quite a scratch golfer. Yeah, I am if you knock 17 shots off that or so per round. Yeah, man, ready to get into it. Looking forward to the start of training camp season and the flood of daily news coming out of camps.
It's coming. It's quick. And we're also joined by someone who I consider my partner in crime. Yes, my PIC. He's Derek Brown, a.k.a. D-Bro. What's going on, brother? What kind of shenanigans are we getting in today, man?
Oh, dude, it's going to be a wild one. We got a lot to talk about. And I knew from the wind-up when you were going through the golf game, I could still smack it around a little bit, but I knew you were definitely not talking about me, dude. I'm top golf worthy only right now. Top golf worthy only. The putting in the short game is not there.
That's all right. There's different ways to win at golf. I'm usually the guy who I drink the most beers during the round. So as long as I'm winning something, I'm okay with it. Out there having a good time with the boys and girls. Today's program does look like this. We'll break down the top 5 messiest running back rooms. We'll tell you what you need to know from a fantasy football perspective. And as always, before we jump in, I want to shout out everyone who's watching on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel or listening on the podcast feed. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us. As always, the easiest free way to support us is give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Also, make sure you're subscribing if you're new. The regular season is just around the corner. We have a ton of content between now and then. Word on the street from the higher-ups as well is that when we cross that 300K subscriber mark, we're looking at a Monster Energy sponsorship on deck just for D-Bro. So help us help him feed the caffeine addiction. Come be a part of our story. Gentlemen, let's go ahead. Let's jump right in. Starting down in Duval County, Liam Cohen now on the sticks for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Travis Etienne on the final year of that rookie deal, just 2 years removed from an RB1 finish. Plotter Tank Bigsby is back as well. And two of my favorite rookie running backs, Virginia Tech's Bhayshul Tuten and Syracuse's LaQuint Allen, joined the fold. Pat, I'm incredibly biased because both Allen and Tuten helped me cash some major tickets throughout their collegiate career and at the NFL Combine. So being the unbiased Big J journalist that you are, how do we sort through this backfield for fantasy?
Oh, man. Yeah, it is very ambiguous, and it's not just a 3-headed monster. Maybe a 4-headed monster if LaQuint Allen can insert himself into the proceedings. But there is opportunity with this ambiguous backfield because all of these guys, like no one is better than about RB 30 or so in ADP. Travis Etienne, I've been kind of out on him for most of the offseason, but I have to admit, I'm kind of warming to Etienne a little. Part of it is that Tuten, the fumble issues that he had in college kind of came up in OTAs for the Jaguars, and he got called out for that. And like if he has trouble hanging onto the ball in training camp, it's going to be really hard for him to get any sort of foothold in this offense early in the year with Liam Cohen trying to establish things in Jacksonville. So I'm getting a little more lukewarm on Tuten despite his blazing speed. Maybe Etienne benefits from this new running scheme that Cohen has going on. It's more wide zone kind of stuff, and maybe that suits Etienne a little better than what the Jaguars were doing last year because the stats were bad. I mean, Etienne was minus 0.28 rushing yards over expected per carry. So he was underwater on what he was expected to get per run. Yeah, I know he's a free agent, but I still feel like maybe he fits best and offers the most upside in this backfield. I don't mind taking a swing at him in the middle rounds because he's only 2 years removed from being a pretty productive running back. Like for the
league
first
winner, maybe.
For the first half of 2023, he was averaging like 20 PPR points per game before sort of slipping a little bit in the second half. Then we got the bad year last year. I'm kind of avoiding Tank Bigsby. By all the metrics, he was really effective last year in what he averaged in yards after contact per carry, some of the other metrics, but he just offers zero upside as a pass catcher. And even if there were to be an injury in this backfield, like he's never playing on passing downs because all three of the other guys can be the passing down back, like all of them. And that's actually LaQuinn Allen's specialty probably. So just not a lot of appeal to Bigsby unless I'm playing in like a 16-team standard league or something like that. But so yeah, right now, I think Etienne is the guy I would probably take a shot at.
Okay. Travis Etienne is RB31 in Fantasy Pros ECR. You can find those at fantasypros.com/rankings. Bigsby, RB43, Tuten, RB51, and Allen all the way down. Going undrafted, RB107. D-Bro, how do you shake out this backfield? Because like Pat, it's hard for me to get that 2023 season from Etienne where he helped me win my league of record that year out of my mind. But at the same time, if we're following the cues that Liam Cohen used in Tampa Bay, it points to potentially Tuten being this year's Bucky Irving.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'll keep this short and sweet. We thought about this on Fantasy Court, Andrew Erickson and I am firmly out on Travis Etienne. I'm living in the present. And seeing what we've seen over the last few seasons, like, look, like I understand the previous years where he was really good, but last year, shoulder, hamstring issues, his efficiency metrics were putrid outside the top 25 running backs in both missed tackles forced and yards after contact per attempt. And the thing with Etienne that I'll also bring up here is I think the passing game stuff has really been overblown for most of his career. I mean, he's never crested 1.2 yards per route run. He's been a horrendous pass blocker for a lot of his seasons. Like last year, on 58 pass blocking snaps, he allowed 8 hurries and 13 pressures. So I don't even know if he's a lock to like. I'm actually going as far as if Bhayshul Tuten and Tank Bigsby hit the ground running, LaQuinn Allen looks competent. I don't know if Etienne's on this roster week 1. And I'm not saying they cut him, but if there are camp injuries and what have you, or if Dallas looks at their backfield and says, we ain't got nobody, baby, and we're going to talk about them in a little bit, but like, we ain't got nobody. Travis Etienne could be on the move. So Etienne's a player I don't want to invest in, where we do have 2 supremely talented running backs behind him. 3 if you want to go to LaQuinn Allen and talk about the passing game. But, I mean, I can't shy away. And I will say one thing. The lead-up, Seth, for Tank Bigsby. Plotter, sir. We're talking about him as a plotter? He was 21st in explosive run rate, 2nd best in yards after contact per attempt. Plotter, he is not, man. Now, I will agree with Pat. You're not going to see Tank catching any passes. So his value in this backfield is a known commodity. He's going to work in on early downs and spell whoever is the complement next to him, which I'm guessing is going to be Bhayshul Tuten. And I'm not pushing Bhayshul down, but yeah, the fumbling stuff is a problem and stuff. But again, I think those things, much like drops with wide receivers, can be corrected, much more so with fumbles with running backs. And if I want to bet on a guy from this backfield, the way where I feel like you attack a lot of these ambiguous backfields and ambiguous situations that we're going to discuss here is going with letting talent lead the day. And I think Bhayshul Tuten is the most talented running back in this backfield, considering where Etienne is at in his career. Can we talk about previous years? Sure, but I don't know if that's exactly where he's at considering his talent today. And Tuten, I mean, dude, like last year, final year of college, top 10 in yards after contact per attempt, breakaway percentage, elusive rating. It is all there, man. And I think he's competent enough on passing down. So I look at this backfield, the guys that I want to invest in, it's Tuten first, it's Bigsby next, and you could just miss me with Travis Etienne.
Okay. The one thing I wanted to point about Tuten too, you guys did mention the speed, fastest 40 time for the position, 4.32 seconds. And here's a list of running backs who have posted the fastest 40 time since 2020. 2024, Isaac Guerrero. 23, Devon Achane. 2022, Isaiah Pacheco. 2021, Elijah Mitchell. And then 2020, Antonio Gibson. All those guys had pretty meaningful rookie seasons, including 1 RB1 season from Etienne and then 2 RB2 seasons. So that's kind of why I'm on Tuten here, Pat, but you make a great case that Etienne, he is only 2 years removed from that great season. So it's really tough to say, but it sounds like you're kind of sticking by Etienne as a value here, which I understand because he's going 8th, 9th round here, where a year ago we were taking him, 2nd, 3rd round?
Right, and that's kind of at the price point, Seth, is pretty tolerable. And if things don't work out, and of course we have to acknowledge the possibility that the Jaguars just sort of wash their hands of Travis Etienne in the final year of his contract and start plotting for a future without him, and they have 3 other backs that they could do that with. But if you spend a 9th rounder on him and it doesn't work out, that's pretty easy to go in on waivers in week 2, replace him, and that is not going to cost you your league.
Would you draft both? Would you draft both, like a Tuten or Etienne, or do you just not want to tie up that much capital in Jacksonville backfield?
That's exactly it. I'm not spending 2 picks on this backfield.
Okay. Get in the game. Best Ball is live at DraftKings. $15 million is on the line with real stakes and real excitement. Best Ball is the biggest fantasy contest at DraftKings. We're talking a $15 million guaranteed prize pool with 2 millionaires being crowned for 1st and 2nd place. Play season-long fantasy football the DraftKings way. With Best Ball, there's no waiver wires and no roster management. You get bigger rosters, so injuries, they're not going to tank your season. Just draft your team and you're all set. If a shot at winning a share of a $15 million prize isn't enough to get you excited, well, check this out. DraftKings is offering a draft one, get one special. Your $20 entry fee scores you a bonus ticket. Download the DraftKings app today and use the code FANTASYPROS. That's code FANTASYPROS for all customers who enter the NFL Best Ball $15 million millionaire contest to get a bonus ticket and get a shot at being crowned one of 2 millionaires only at DraftKings. Next, we head to Big D, where Jerry Jones, man, just saying wilder things each year as it keeps going along. Shoddy, Brian Schottenheimer, he makes the jump from OC to head coach. And at his disposal in the backfield, he has former Denver Broncos running back Javonte Williams, journeyman and former Penn State Nittany Lion Miles Sanders, and rookie running back Jaden Blue from Texas. D-Bro, how do you believe this backfield shakes out for the boys?
Whew. I've turned a 180 on this backfield since the beginning of the offseason, I will say. I was either avoiding it or taking shots on Jaden Blue, and now I find myself, I don't want to say extremely high, but I will find myself drafting a lot of Javonte Williams. And the more, if you take the 100-foot view with Javonte Williams in last year, it doesn't look pretty. Now, I went more granular. I went over Fantasy Points data, and I looked at all of his splits broken down week by week. And it was really interesting, guys. He hit a wall, emphatically hit a wall last year. So weeks 1 through 8, amongst 43 qualifying running backs, Javonte Williams was breaking tackles. Now, I'm not saying, close to where he was pre-injury, but it wasn't bad, man. 20% missed tackle rate. That was 13th amongst 43 qualifying running backs. So if he kept doing that for the entire season, I mean, we're looking at Javonte Williams' season in probably a different light. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. After week 8, Javonte Williams did not force another missed tackle for the rest of the season. And while, yes, we can easily take the glass half full approach and say, well, that's really bad, right? My look at Javonte Williams is, what if we get that first 8 weeks of Javonte Williams for the entirety of 2025? What if that happens? He's another year post-injury, another year actually getting a full offseason this year to work out, get himself ready, and you look at the rest of this backfield. Jaden Blue, yeah, he's exciting. He can play passing downs. He's good in the receiving game. But there was a reason Texas never fed him a ton of volume during his entirety of his career. And the thing I think gets lost sometimes is this dude only had 44 pass blocking snaps in college. So it's not yes, he's good at running routes. Yes, he's good as a pass game weapon. But as a pass protector, Texas didn't even trust him in that role. So he's relatively untested. And I look at Miles Sanders and I'm like, I don't think he's got much left, man. 11% missed tackle rate, 1.8 yards to contact per attempt. Those are not even backup worthy numbers. Those are, you're probably going to find yourself on the street type of numbers.
UFL type numbers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So with Miles Sanders, I don't even know if he makes this team. If he does make the team, I think he is the clear RB3 behind both of these guys. But I think there's an opportunity for Javonte Williams to be this year's J.K. Dobbins. And I don't think it's that crazy. If you look at how he started out last year, I think he is the most trusted, or at least the best pass protector on this roster in the running back room. And unless they add more competition, which could be possible, like we could see injuries, we could see camp cuts. Like if some of these other backfields we're going to talk about later decide to, trim the tree, that could happen. But right now, as it stands and we're discussing it right now, I want to be above market on Javonte Williams because we had all the skepticism about J.K. Dobbins, and I'm not using recency bias here, but a guy we all loved in fantasy, and he was an elite tackle breaker. Telling me another year past the injury, he can't get a little bit more of that zip back and be an RB2 this year, considering the guys in that backfield of competition? I think it can't happen.
Well, you make a great point. We've always kind of heard from Dr. Deepak Chonan when he joins us on Sunday nights that it's really the first year after the ACL you don't want to be invested in a running back, and then even sometimes that second year there's still some productivity issues. I like Javonte Williams. I have him in a ton of best ball leagues, but that's when I was getting him closer, like RB 45. Now he's RB 34 in the ECR, Blue RB 55, Sanders 67. Reports are coming out of camp, Pat, that is questioning Blue's work ethic and professionalism. So I'm kind of almost out as a whole on the Cowboys backfield. What say you, though?
I'm kind of with Debro on this, and you mentioned the Jaden Blue work ethic issues. That's not a good thing to have attached to you coming out of just a mini camp. And then, like we had seen red flags about that before. I know Dane Brugler, the excellent college/draft analyst, he wrote in his big draft guide, the Beast, that there were questions about Jaden Blue and whether he has what it takes to put in the work and succeed at the NFL level and be an NFL back. So, he's concerning, and plus he's 5'9" and under 200 pounds. So he was never going to have a real meaty role, I think, in this offense anyway. It was going to be part-time work if he could do what it took from a work standpoint to get it, and right now that's in doubt. I am sort of with Debro on Javonte Williams. I'm a little above consensus. I've got him at RB 30, which is still...
Ooh, same, Patty. Same.
Yeah, but still, Debro, I mean, that's just above some of like the premium backup types like Jordan Mason and Zach Charbonnet. Javonte has said he is just starting to feel like his old self after that knee injury in 2022, which wasn't just a torn ACL, also an LCL. So if he's back to 100%, it's possible he just takes this lead running back job in Dallas and runs with it. And he catches passes. And Debro brought it up like he was an elite tackle breaker in his rookie year. Remember how mad we were that Melvin Gordon was sort of standing in his way in Denver? I mean, there's not really a lot in Javonte's way this year. So if he is back to even 90% of that guy he was as a rookie, and he's still only 25, there is some plausible upside here.
The last thing I'll bring up on Javonte, I think he'll be the clear passing down back on this team. Last year for Denver, 110 passing down, pass blocking reps, He allowed 0 sacks and 1 QB hit on an offense that we think is going to be top 10 in passing attempts. I don't think it's going to be close. I think he will be the passing down back on this team.
Yeah, I do agree with you that we saw a lot of Trey Wisner in the backfield for Texas. We also saw CJ Baxter when he was healthy. Like, you can go ask our friend Boggs, like, Jaden Blue for a while has been, kind of pegged as this guy who was supposed to be, kind of the heir apparent to Jonathan Brooks at Texas and never really took that role fully. I mean, man can run a wheel route with the best of them, but I don't know if that translates to fantasy points. So great discussion there on Dallas. Let's move to Cleveland, where a few weeks ago it looked like it would be rookie running back Quinshawn Judkins' backfield to lose. However, after being arrested for an alleged domestic dispute, things are a bit more complicated now, giving life to both veteran running back Jerome Ford and rookie running back out of Tennessee Dylan Sampson, who led the SEC in rushing. Pat, how do you project this running back room playing out?
This is probably the hardest one to project, Seth, because of the Judkins status. And, we're going to have to monitor the situation with him and the battle between Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson for to establish the pecking order in this Cleveland backfield. This is a training camp battle to watch, but we know some people draft in late July, early August, and are going to have to make calls on this sooner rather than later. So right now I'm kind of just, I've got Judkins ranked in like the mid 30s or late 30s at running back, but that's just sort of a placeholder ranking. Really, I'm just not touching him at this point, just because we don't even know if he's going to play. And the Browns seem like they are in no rush to sign him and bring him into camp until his legal issues are resolved. And that leaves Ford and Sampson, and that's a hard one to handicap too, because Ford has been a very competent running back whenever he's been thrown into the fray, and has shown he can be fantasy relevant when he gets meaningful touches. But Dylan Sampson pre-draft, was one of my favorite guys in this class. Yeah, I think I had him after the Big Five, the two Ohio State guys, obviously Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton, and who am I forgetting? Caleb Johnson. Yeah, so Sampson was 6 for me.
Wow,
and he was still a 4th-round pick, even though they took Quinshon in the 2nd, which obviously squelched a lot of our enthusiasm. Great lateral agility, faster than he timed at the combine. Surprisingly good contact balance for a smaller back. Pretty good in the passing game. I thought Dylan Sampson coming out of Tennessee, much more impressive than Jalen Wright was to me. And there are still people who are in on Jalen Wright. So I wonder, I think people are going to give Ford the sort of incumbent edge here in this battle, but I wonder if there's not some really interesting upside with Sampson here as this potentially explosive rookie who now could get a lot of playing time with Quinshon Judkins' status very much in jeopardy.
Man, D-Bro, this is such a frustrating situation because you and I think, in the pre-draft process, a lot lower than consensus on Judkins as a prospect. And I finally took him in Scott Fishbowl because it's a volume-based league. Yeah, so burned myself there. Luckily, I was able to grab Sampson in the later rounds. And now we have this situation here where Judkins has moved down to RB33 in ECR. Ford and Sampson continue to rise. RB50 for Ford, RB58 for Sampson. So how do you crack open this backfield? Is it kind of a situation like Pat where you're just staying away for now, maybe grabbing a dart throw in Ford or Sampson?
I'm avoiding all these guys, to be honest. I don't want to fight over what could be a 2 to 3 way committee and what we're all projecting to be a terrible offense. To me, that where's the meat on the bone here?
Put some respect on Joe Flacco's name, please,
bro. If he's starting, who knows? It could be Kenny Pickett season. Fool. And this is all. It could just be burn it down, and we're just going to suck and get a top 3 pick and pick a quarterback. I'm not saying Cleveland's just going to fully throw in the towel, but I don't think this is going to be a very good team. And I was much lower than consensus on Judkins and Sampson. Sorry, Patty, but Mike Renner, when we were doing the NFL draft show, I had to hear that he was all in on Sampson too.
Yeah.
And we fought on that show, and it was just for all the narratives about Sampson, it's oh, he's really fast and he's got big play potential. But over the last 2 years, he's 118th and 83rd in breakaway percentage. But he's shifty, but he was 51st and 77th in yards after contact per attempt. I just didn't feel like the narratives and the testing kind of matched the on-field productivity for Sampson and the efficiency metrics. So I get pushing him up the board. I did that as well, just because of how, if Judkins misses 4 to 6 weeks, and we're all kind of projecting suspension length, we don't know. It could be 2 games. It could be 4. It could be 6.
Could be nothing this season. Yeah,
exactly. Nobody knows. What we do know is he's still unsigned. So missing camp time is detrimental.
Yeah.
Now, the question is not, okay, at this point, is he missing camp time? It's how much of the camp time does he miss, and how much does that set him back? And then you have a suspension on top of all of that. So in a backfield with an offense that I have major questions on, how much are they going to score? How much are they going to be in the red zone? Are they going to be trailing a lot in games? So how much positive game script do you have to feed Judkins? Because we know he's not a passing down back. He's not going to catch passes. The guy had 0.76 yards per route run in college. That's not part of his game. He's the early down grinder part of this. We also know from Cleveland, and they've told us with their moves, by drafting 2 running backs, They don't want Jerome Ford to be a workhorse. They had the chance to do that last year and then put more on top of it, and he could have walked into this season as the guy, or at least as the workhorse.
Dante Foreman was taking like a ton of carries at the beginning of the year.
Cleveland said, no, we're going to draft 2 running backs. That's how much we think about Jerome Ford. We're drafting 2 running backs. That's how much faith we have in Jerome Ford. So, like, this could be, if Judkins doesn't get suspended, I mean, like, and he misses the camp time, would any of us be shocked if they walk into week 1 and say Judkins is active, but he's missed a lot of the preseason, a lot of training camp, that this is a 3-way committee and everybody's getting 8 to 10 touches or what have you, and nobody is viable? I think it definitively can happen. So, like, if this is on a good offense, maybe I'm throwing darts at some of these guys, and I understand in best ball formats, but I'm just avoiding this, man. Like, I'm avoiding this backfield. If I'm going to pick anybody, it's probably Jerome Ford, just because he is the price of freemium, and I can get him with, like, the last pick of a draft. But outside of that, miss me with Cleveland Browns running backs.
Okay, I get it. To me, it kind of reminds me, if you go back in the Wayback Machine, of that 2017 Packers backfield where Aaron Jones was picked higher than Jamal Williams. He faced some off the field and injury issues to begin his career. Jamal Williams, by the end of that season, was kind of the guy you wanted for fantasy. So I don't mind taking a shot on Dylan Sampson last round of drafts, but other than that, it sounds like for the most part, pick your poison with these guys, but pretty much an avoid here. Definitely one I think, though, overall, Pat, like, keep your head on a swivel when we get into training camp. And I know we'll be out there in Canton at the Fantasy Football Expo. There's always training camp games on. That's one that I'll be watching out for, is Cleveland and how this backfield situation shakes out in the preseason.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, these guys are going for like running back 5 prices.
Right. Yeah.
So it is a pretty low level of investment for the possibility of a decent workload on an NFL team. So there is some appeal here, low level appeal. I get it. And, at this price point, like, the risk is very minimal.
Still torn on who to trust in these murky situations? Well, the Fantasy Pros Draft Kit has full avoid list, positional tiers, and must-have picks from Andrew Erickson, Derek Brown, Pat Fitzmaurice, and, of course, Joe Pisapia. Winning your fantasy football league starts before draft day, and the Fantasy Pros Draft Kit gives you the knowledge to do it right. Don't walk into draft day guessing. Read up, lock in, and win your league. Go to fantasypros.com/kit and start drafting smarter today. All right, we've got big question marks in the Big Apple, maybe all around, but in particular in this backfield. Tyrone Tracy returns after finishing RB 33 in fantasy points per game as a rookie. Devin Singletary is coming off a season of career lows, but still making over $6 million guaranteed this season. And rookie running back Cam Skattebo is ready to make his mark after finishing 5th in the Heisman voting and taking Arizona State on a Cinderella run to the CFP last year. Debro, what do you think the workload split is like, and how are you approaching it in fantasy drafts when it comes to the New York Giants?
I feel like I'm going to channel my best Scott Bogman here. I'm going to draft all the Cam Skattebo possible this year. That's how I'm approaching this backfield. I think that the Giants told us last year they want one running back to carry the mail, and this isn't even just looking back at Dayball's history. Like, last year, Saquon before him, Devin Singletary before him. And Devin Singletary getting shoved to the side by Tyrone Tracy, I think he's a nothing burger in this backfield, so I'm not worried about him. But looking at the Giants last year, and Devin Singletary is in this sample, you had 7 games where a running back played 70% or more of the snaps for the Giants. You had 12 games where a running back played at least 65% of the snaps for the Giants. So everybody is talking about this backfield as like, oh, it could be thunder and lightning. I'm like, based off of what? What has Brian Daboll showed over the last few years that makes any of us believe this is going to be a committee situation outside of seeing Tyrone Tracy perform as a workhorse last year until he wasn't, and then he was again. And then what? They draft Cam Skattebo and everybody's like, oh, it must be a committee. No! One of these guys is going to take over. And I think people need to be making their decisions on who they believe that player is. And for me, it's Cam Skattebo, because they put more draft capital behind Skattebo's name than they did with Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy tried his best to fumble away the job last year, and I think that's notable. And it's not like he's a great pass protector. They didn't utilize him as a receiver, which could have been his calling card. And none of those things happened. So while Tracy was awesome last year and carried a lot of people, especially down the back half of the season, I mean, look, weeks 5 through 18, RB 22 in fantasy points per game. That's awesome. But he also had the 23rd most touches, and he tied for the third most fumbles. That's also notable. So you take a guy like Cam Skattebo, and let's just talk about the archetype. This is a guy that can handle volume. He can play all 3 downs. You don't take a guy like that to 1, make him a committee back, and 2, not use him, and 3, to put more draft capital on his name and behind him than you even did with last year's starter. So I think this is clearly Cam Skattebo's backfield to be taken over. I think he's going to do it in short order through training camp and the preseason. I don't know if he comes out and he's like the 65-70% guy in week 1, but by week 4, I think that's probably what we're looking at. And for a guy that's getting drafted in RB3 price tags, there's an easy avenue and pathway that Cam Skattebo, by week 4, we are ranking as a top 20 running back every single week for fantasy. So I want to be above market and aggressive on drafting a guy like that.
Skattebo, RB39 in Fantasy Pros
Free
ECR currently.
Money.
Tracy, RB32. So going above him, Pat, I do think this is a bit more of a committee than Debro, I think. But I still think by the end of the day, this is going to be a 60-40 split in terms in favor of Skattebo by the end of the season. But what does that mean for fantasy, and what's your take on this split here?
Yeah, I think I kind of see it the way you do, Seth. And
Okay.
I to some extent see it the way Debro does, but maybe not with the same degree of confidence that Debro has in the outcome here. Like, ADP and ECR both have Tyrone Tracy ranked ahead of Cam Skattebo. And like Debro, I have Skattebo ranked higher than Tracy.
Okay.
I think it's right now I have Skattebo RB 33, which might be a tad low, and Tracy RB 36, which might be a tad high. I mean, there is some possibility that we see sort of a split, and we're looking for those high value touches, which is like carries close to the goal line and passing down work, the targets and receptions. And there's a chance that we see those high value touches split up, with Skattebo as more the goal line guy and Tyrone Tracy, the converted former college wide receiver, as the primary passing down back. You know, he did have 38 catches. I know that wasn't a ton for a guy who played 17 games last year, but he was involved in the passing game. So, but to Debro's point, there is also a world where Skattebo just shoves Tyrone Tracy aside and takes over this role. And yeah, like Devin Singletary is kind of a thorn here. He was Lord knows he was a thorn for Zach Moss for 4 years in Buffalo. Zach Moss, a lot of people wanted that to happen, and it just never did, because he could never beat out Devin Singletary for touches. But last year, we did see like the fewest touches per game of Devin Singletary's career. That was with about 9 touches a game, and that was with really only Tyrone Tracy. Now we've got Skattebo, so it is kind of hard to see Devin Singletary being a major factor here. Could be a little annoying for us, but probably is not going to steal significant touches from both Skattebo and Tracy. Maybe from one of them, but I do think one of those two is going to step forward and claim a pretty substantial role, and my money is also on Skattebo.
And I think sometimes people think of Cam as just, you know, again, throw out the word plotter, but he's really not. I mean, this is a guy who...
He's really not.
Great receiving back. Also has a little bit of a cannon, as we saw in the CFP as well. So I think they can do some fun things with him, and I think he'll be involved potentially on all 3 downs. So it sounds like Cam Skattebo is the one we are targeting out of the New York Giants backfield. Let's go ahead and round it out with what could be an ambiguous backfield, or could also be a one-man show in Kansas City. Isaiah Pacheco missed 10 games with a broken fibula, but still somehow made it back by the end of the regular season. Did not look like himself, though. That led the way to Kareem Hunt posting the most rushing yards he's had since 2020. They're both back, as is former 49ers running back Elijah Mitchell and rookie running back Brashard Smith out of SMU. Pat, I think it was one of your Dynasty shows I was listening to last week, and I think Worm made a pick of Pacheco late in that startup draft you were doing, and you were intrigued that Pacheco could resume some type of starter-worthy role for fantasy. Do you feel the same when it comes to redraft formats right here in 2025?
I do, Seth. I mean, he fractured his fibula early last season and was back in about 2.5 months. And like upon his return, he was just not anything close to the same guy he had been. Couldn't get the lead job back from Kareem Hunt. There's no way Isaiah Pacheco is anything close to 100%. And you mentioned Dr. Deepak Chona earlier in the show. I think Deepak felt the same way about that. So, yeah, this is a guy we were talking about going in the mid to late second round of drafts last year. And now you can get Isaiah Pacheco in like the 7th or the 8th in a backfield that includes, Hunt, who's wasn't really good last year. I mean, he kept falling into the end zone, but as far as being an effective running back, I don't see him as a threat to Pacheco's dominance in the early down role. They have Elijah Mitchell and Bhayshul Smith, and maybe those guys can factor in some meaningful way. Maybe Bhayshul Smith is a pass catcher, but I do think Pacheco is the best running back the Chiefs have on the roster without question. And being able to get him as a high-end RB3, not too bad. And we know the Chiefs' offense is going to be anywhere from good to great. So there's a lot of touchdown potential there, and maybe the injury issue always comes up with Pacheco because he does, and I've said this before, a guy who looks like he's trying to run through a closed, locked door. But this guy has given us value in the past, and I think he's going to give us value this year.
Pacheco, RB27 in ECR, Hunt, RB61, Bhayshul Smith down at RB79. D-Bro, your love for Bhayshul Smith is no secret to anyone who's tuned into Fantasy Pros before, but how do you think this backfield as a whole shakes out in 2025, man?
Man, I think this backfield is going to be a committee situation. I think that we've seen enough out of Pacheco, and I know like last year, like in the abbreviated version that we got of him, like before he got hurt, he had an 80% snap share when he opened the season, 17 touches. I think that he's proven because of, to Pat's point, like the play style that he has. If KC wants to keep him healthy, they're going to need to sit here and limit some of his volume. And the other thing about it is he's not been an amazing pass catcher. It's not like this guy has proven himself to be a top-tier pass catcher. Like a career 0.86 yards per route run, that's not fantastic. Like it's okay, but it's not great. So I look at Pacheco. I think the KC backfield is going to be a committee situation. I think they brought Kareem Hunt back because they know what they're going to get out of him. It's not flashy, it's not great, but it's dependable. If Pacheco does go down, they know that Kareem Hunt can at least get what's blocked for him. If he gets anything more than that, hooray. But they know what they can get out of him, and that's a stable veteran. Elijah Mitchell, I don't even know if he makes his team, man. He's on basically a prove-it deal. He's got $1.1 million in dead cap if they were to move on from him. So if Pacheco looks healthy, Kareem Hunt still looks he has some gas left in the tank, which he was good enough in what KC asked him to do last year. So I don't even know if Mitchell makes this team. But so I have no problem with people taking shots on Pacheco as being the goal line early down option for the KC backfield. But I don't see him being this bell cow. Like, I don't think he's going to get 70 to 80% of the snaps every single week. I don't think that's what's going to happen in this backfield. And again, I'm going to bring up Bhayshul Smith. I think that they've needed and wanted this type of passing down specialist back in this offense. I mean, dude, I'm old enough to remember how good Jarrett McKinnon was for us in fantasy. And I think that can definitively happen again this year. I think Bhayshul Smith is a guy that I want to be taking shots on with the last pick of every single draft that I've got, because I think that he has the talent. And for everybody that says, well, he's a 7th round pick, hello, Isaiah Pacheco. You remember what round he was drafted in? And we don't think that a 7th round pick can ascend in this backfield? Well, Pacheco says hi. So I want to take the shots on Bhayshul Smith. Again, I think he's incredibly talented. I think his ability and utility both on early downs and in the passing game is going to show up in a big way in this offense. And if Pacheco goes down, I mean, dude, if Pacheco were to miss any time, you're probably looking at, again, a committee with Kareem Hunt and Bhayshul Smith. But I think Bhayshul Smith can have standalone value in that McKinnon role from week 1. So that's the guy I want to garner in this backfield that, again, we're talking about injury histories. We're talking about 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Pacheco's got, he's lightning in Bhayshul Smith is lightning in a bottle, man.
So you don't want Pacheco at all at the RB27 ECR?
No, I'm not against people. Okay. Am I taking shots on him in drafts? No, I'm going other directions on most drafts. Am I against people drafting him where he's going? No, not at all. Okay. RB3 price tag is perfectly fine for him. If he does, catch any steam and he gets into like the top 24, then I'll probably just full avoid because I just don't see the meat on the bone there because of how I'm projecting this backfield. And again, all of these ambiguous situations, you've got to come down with what do you think is going to play out in this backfield, and that's how you're going to follow your draft plan. Now, are you going to vary if you're playing in 10 to 12 leagues? Sure, you get exposure to a lot of different players. But this all comes back to, and it's all tied to, how are you diagnosing this situation, and how is that leading you to attack drafts? And I look at this as going to be a committee situation, not Pacheco being a bell cow or a workhorse.
Pat, was he an RB1 in 2023 or pretty close to it, I believe, on a points per game basis? I know he was right up there somewhere on the leaderboard because he was definitely someone I thought whoever, if you drafted him late that year, you were probably sitting pretty good in the fantasy football
RB14
playoffs.
and fantasy points per game in 2023 for Pacheco.
Okay. Yeah, high-end RB2.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today on this episode of the Fantasy Pros Fantasy Football Podcast. Make sure you check out part 2 as we dive into messy wide receiver rooms next. Thank you so much for watching. As always, the best free way to support us. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Also, make sure you're subscribing if you're new. Also, let us know down in the comments below what you think about these backfields, how you think it shakes out. For Pat Fitzmaurice and Derek Brown, I'm Seth Woolcock. Take care, y'all.